Good morning. Today's December 7th. It's the feast of St. Ambrose. Now, I've heard of St. Ambrose before because St. Augustine will mention him, but to know who he is kind of an interesting story. It's not quite as you would think of a famous bishop from Milan. So at that time, Milan was like the real head of the Roman Empire. That city was. And Ambrose's father was a high-ranking Roman official. And Ambrose himself followed in his father's footsteps and became a high-ranking official. Now, the church at that time had a strange thing going on to where they were arguing between whether, how would I say, the Orthodox teaching, the fact that Jesus Christ is God himself. And there was also a type of thinking called Arianism, said, oh yes, he is like the Son of God. So he's not quite as good as God, but he's there. And they really wrestled with this a lot, and it was a very big issue for the church. So Ambrose, at this time, he had been in the government himself, following his father's footsteps. He had risen up. He was governor of the area at that time. And so these people having this dispute that seemed like it was on the edges of getting violent, he went to go settle the dispute. So he goes to the center of this controversy where they're arguing back and forth, and he's trying to declare the fact that, hey, we can do this peacefully. We don't have to be having a fight about it. We can easily get together and make this all work. Suddenly, from the crowd, they shouted, Ambrose should be bishop. Now, the reason that was shouted was because the Bishop of Milan had just passed away, and he had been keeping peace for quite a long time. But at his death, all of a sudden, all this erupts. So Ambrose, who's there, is hearing these shouts from the crowd to say, Ambrose is bishop. And he's trying to figure it out. He goes, what in the world is going on here? Now, you have to realize, Ambrose is a lay person. He's not even baptized. And here they want him to be bishop. So he goes off. He thinks about this for a while and just does some serious discerning. And for whatever reason, he comes back and says, okay, I will. So within a week, he is baptized, he's ordained, and he's made a bishop. It's incredible. But he had done, at some point in this process, he had done a serious conversion to where he became a very inspired speaker that just pulled on people's faith and pulled them to the idea that when you get there, you experience a sense of joy and peace. Now, we hear about him the most in St. Augustine, who was a prolific writer. He wrote, and he attended a service where St. Ambrose was preaching, and he was so taken in with the just the feeling and the sense of how Christ was really real. And Augustine was just taken aback. But the other thing that hit Augustine that was so shocking to him was he saw Ambrose reading the Bible silently. He wasn't reading it out loud, and he couldn't understand it, because I guess at that time, reading wasn't done silently. It was done so that you could be explaining it to other people. And he thought, well, maybe he doesn't understand the Greek that's being written here. Obviously, the text would have been in Greek at that time. And then, why would he read it silently? Was he stumbling on it? Was he stuck? Or was it moving him internally? You know, this pulls on all of us, myself included. I'm thinking about reading the Gospel of Mark again, starting today. I just find going back to the Gospels and reading them and letting them be absorbed is following in the steps of St. Ambrose. Now, he didn't have all peaceful times. The emperor gave him a hard time at one point. He wanted him to split off the church to settle this issue. And Ambrose says, listen, the emperor is in the church, but he's not over the church. And to that extent, we get into these pulls back and forth between the state and church. And the thing that Ambrose did was trying to hold everyone together and to be united. He did scold the emperor. At one point, the emperor, there had been a riot and a governor had been killed. So this emperor had ordered the fact there be a massacre in that city. So he sent his troops, and within hours, 7,000 people were massacred. And Ambrose wrote a very scathing letter to him. And he says, what have you done in Thessalonica? It's unparalleled in human memory. You are human, and temptation has overtaken you. I guess in our own way we have to be careful that temptation does not overtake us. The interesting part is the emperor did repent, and he went back and said, there is no one that is a better bishop than Ambrose. Let us follow in his example.